I never thought I'd see it with my own eyes! Tickets to the Quintuplets movie! Yeah!
It's sex today, that all your sex is sex and movies and sex on sex.
Good night, everybody, and Merry Quintsmas. It took a while, but after more than a year of waiting, the Quintuplets movie finally came out. I saw it dubbed in theaters, and it was pretty lit. Now, the film clearly has some issues, but overall the strengths definitely outweigh its flaws. Before I begin though, I will say that this is a follow-up video to my review of the anime and manga that came out last year. In it, I discussed everything in the manga that for the most part was adapted into the movie. And because I've already given my thoughts on the festival arc and the series ending, I won't be going into too much detail about them here in this video. That's why I recommend watching my previous review of the series if you want to hear me go over the arcs in more detail. Now, unfortunately, due to legal reasons, I can't upload it on YouTube anymore, so you'll just have to watch it on my Rumble. I've put the link to the video in the description.
They can't be making a movie about us.
But they are, and they're using actors.
Anyway, let's start talking about the film, which in itself is sort of an issue to begin with. The fact that the last 35 chapters were adapted into a film and not, you know, a third season is easily a penis scratcher for sure. Just for comparison, let's look at the first two seasons. The first season adapted the first 32 chapters, and the second adapted chapters 33 through 86, which in total is 53 chapters. Season 2 might have cut a couple chapters that weren't really important, but either way, it still adapted about 50 chapters, which is notably more than season 1 did. As for the movie, which while totaling at 2 hours and 16 minutes is still half the runtime as a regular 12-episode season. Because of this, the film does suffer from some minor pacing issues. It's nothing bad by any means, but I think the film can move a bit too quickly in some scenes, most notably in the first half. For example, there's a scene where Fudoro tells all the Quints that he's in love with all 5 of them. It's handled well here, but it still just feels a bit too quick. I'm definitely nitpicking, but the thing is, multiple other scenes feel like this too. Again, they're all good scenes, but they just feel like they're paced a bit too quickly. That being said, the film never feels like it's being rushed or moving way faster than it should be. Just like season 2, which jam-packed with content, but I still think it needed a bit more runtime. Either that, or better yet, remove and replace some of the content that's already in the film. There's definitely scenes in here that aren't entirely necessary, and I'm surprised and a bit annoyed that the movie bothered to adapt them. For example, there's Fudora's childhood friend Takabayashi, who shows up for 3 minutes, has a conversation with Yotsuba later on, and that's it. She can be removed from the film and pretty much nothing would change. I really don't understand why she's here at all. That being said, she's still fine here. I'm not angry that she's in the film or anything. I just don't understand why they bothered putting her in when there were clearly other more important things going on in the film. There's also the class arguing over whether takoyaki or pancakes are better, which is just really stupid and almost entirely pointless. The only good thing that comes from this is that Miku tells them both to fuck off later, so that's good, I guess.
Shut your bitches!
The only other thing that does not need to be here is the Quint's biological father. I was very surprised to find out that he was in the movie. You'd think that after everyone complained about him in the manga, they'd have the brain cells to not include him, but I guess the studio just didn't give a shit. I already complained about him before in my last video, but fuck it, I feel like bitching about him again. I don't understand what the author was thinking when he decided to show us the Quint's biological father. I don't think anyone was asking to see him, and there was really no reason to include him in the series. He's just a typical douchebag father that doesn't care for his daughters at all. He's nothing but a giant dislikable asshole, which I'm usually fine with. However, he just doesn't belong in a series like Quint's. While the series does include fan service moments, it's mainly a genuinely well-written harem that doesn't feel like it's aimed solely for degenerates like myself. Because of this, a character like their father doesn't fit the series at all, and it feels very out of place. The only purpose he serves is to make Itsuki think that she's wrong for wanting to become a teacher like her mother was. I'm very certain that with some rewriting, you could remove him and have Itsuki question this on her own or by some other means. He isn't necessary to have in the series, and it would be better if he wasn't here. Seriously, nobody even wants you here.
Nobody even wants wants you here.
Anyway, as I was saying before, the film had to adapt the last 35 chapters of the manga. Even with its fairly long runtime, the film still trimmed and cut out scenes and even full chapters from the manga. Chapters 91 through 96 are cut entirely from the film except for the water park scene. That was one chapter in the manga and it got trimmed down to a minute-long scene at the start of the film. I wish it, along with some of the other chapters, got adapted into an OVA episode, but I'm still fine with them not being adapted. So, if you want to be more accurate, the film adapted about 30 instead of 35 chapters, which is still a ton of material to cram into a film. Some moments and scenes are cut from other chapters, but it's nothing too important, just scenes that I wish were here. For example, there's a scene where Yotsuba remembers meeting Futaro at school. In it, she picks up his test grade on the floor at lunch, walks towards him, and that's it. In the manga, we get to see Yotsuba realize how different Futaro is and how hard he's been working over the past 5 years. Because of that, she's too ashamed to tell him that the two of them have met before. We also get to see her notice that all of her sisters are falling for Futaro too. However, while I do like these scenes in the manga, this as well as other scenes that are shortened still work in the movie. If you just watch the movie as a sequel to season 2 and ignore what was in the manga, it still manages to work surprisingly well. Even though the manga's telling of these last arcs is better, the movie still does a pretty good job.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
As for the story itself, it could be divided into two parts. The first being the festival arc and the second being everything that comes after the festival. As for the school festival part, it's pretty good, although like I already said, it certainly has its problems. Besides some pointless characters in it, there's another small problem it has, which again comes from this being a movie. During the film, we see 5 what-if scenarios showcasing what it would be like if Futaro spent the day with all of the Quints. Overall, they're good, but some of them, such as Nino and Yotsuba's, are clearly better than others. However, that's not my issue with it. My issue with this part of the film is that it's pretty repetitive seeing 5 what-if scenarios back to back to back to back to back. I know that each what-if lasts for around 8 minutes or so, but still, this ends up totaling at nearly 45 minutes long. The format of the what-ifs worked well in the manga since they were all 2 chapters each except for Itsuki's, which was 3. I think it could have been adapted much better as 2 episodes in season 3, which again just shows that this movie should have been a 3rd season instead. Now, while it's not great in the film, it still works, just not as well as it could have. Also, I understand that there's nothing the film could have done about this, and it's just a drawback of this being a film and not a typical season. Besides that though, there isn't too much else to say about the festival. The only other noteworthy thing is that the very first scene Futaro has with someone is with Yotsuba. I'm guessing this was done to help hint at him choosing her. However, if I didn't read the manga beforehand and didn't get spoiled, I still wouldn't have thought much of this. It's only a minute long and still, there's no way I would have thought that there'd even be a chance that he'd pick Yotsuba. I can't even imagine what would have happened if I didn't read the manga and went into this film blind. I'm sure I would have expected to see Futaro choose Itsuki or maybe even Miku. I really don't think Yotsuba's chances would have increased as I watched the film. That just makes me wonder what my reaction would have been if I saw Futaro choose Yotsuba. When I first read it in the manga, I'm not joking, I was dying of laughter for 5 minutes straight. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was just some sick joke. But as the manga continued, I realized that the author just bamboozled me the entire time. So if I saw this scene in theaters for the first time, I probably would have lost my shit, and I kinda wish that happened too. Anyway, once the festival is over, the film becomes notably better and more entertaining. The second half of the film is clearly stronger than the first, which I guess is a good thing. I wish the festival arc was better, but at least the rest of the film makes up for its shortcomings.
Hi, how are you?
And of course, like we all know, since we've seen the film and since I've even mentioned it again just now, Futaro chooses Yotsuba. I already explained why I love this in my previous review, but I'll just quickly summarize and repeat what I said there. Futaro choosing Yotsuba is such a bro moment.
Bruh.
You can argue that it makes sense for him choosing her, but you could also argue against it. I don't really care though. I think it's really funny and it's also the most interesting choice for him to pick. If not, then at least the second most interesting, since there was no way he was going to pick Ichika after how she acted in season 2. Yotsuba might not be my favorite character in the series, but I'm still glad that she won. Hell, her winning is leagues better than Itsuki winning, so I'll take this ending any day. If Futaro picked Itsuki, I would still like it and be fine with it, but it would mainly feel underwhelming and predictable. Everyone thought Itsuki was going to win, so having him choose someone else is great. Again, even though Yotsuba isn't my first choice, I'd rather him pick Miku or Nino instead. It's still exciting and interesting to see her win. I sorta hope the movie would have an anime original ending where Futaro would pick someone besides Yotsuba. Not everyone was thrilled with her winning, plus it would have been nice to get a different ending from the manga. Then again, I'm sure if the movie did go this route, Futaro would have picked Itsuki despite Miku and Nino being the two most popular characters. Either way though, I'm still completely fine and happy with him choosing Yotsuba in the movie.
Can we get much higher?
Just like everything else up to this point, the rest of the film is nearly identical to the manga. Yotsuba runs away from Futaro, but then confesses to him, they start dating, get married, and then the film ends. Everything that I loved about these scenes in the manga still apply here. The only minor nitpick I have is that I still don't like that all of the Quints go on Futaro and Yotsuba's honeymoon. Like really? We couldn't just have the two of them enjoy themselves with each other? It's kind of annoying, but that's just it. It's an annoyance and nothing more. The ending itself is still great and I love it. The fact that we even get an animated ending is a miracle on its own. You know how many goddamn harems I've sat through and watched just to find out that they don't end? Way too many. The only harem anime with endings that I can think of off the top of my head are Mermaid, Yamada, Orisuki, School Days, and only a couple other ones. And even then, most of those endings aren't that great to begin with. Mermaids is pretty good, honestly, even though it feels more like a season finale rather than a series one. Yamada and Orisuki are both decent shows that needed more time to develop their characters, so because of that, the endings they got, while nice, aren't super satisfying. And School Days, well, it's School Days. Its ending is fucking awesome. So yeah, I'm not saying that I love the movie solely because we got to see the ending animated. That would just be stupid, and like I said, just getting an ending doesn't automatically mean it's amazing. As for Quint's ending though, it's great, or at least I really like it. And because I really like its ending, I'm able to forgive some of the film's shortcomings. That's not to say I should ignore the film's flaws, I'm just saying that I enjoy the second half as well as its ending so much that I'm able to brush off some of its annoyances. Seriously, the fact that this film concludes the series and does it in such an exciting and interesting way really raises the film from a pretty damn good one to a great one. Just having this ending at all is so satisfying and redeeming. I can now watch the entire series from start to finish and come out of it feeling relieved. I know that Futaro and Yotsuba are going to be busy fucking their brains out for the rest of their lives. I don't have to spend the rest of my life wondering who Futaro would have chosen if the anime ended. It's not like countless other harems that never end where I'm always wondering who the main character would have chosen if the anime ever ended. While not a perfectly adapted ending by any means, it's still pretty damn great and I love it. The film may not be as amazing as season 2, but I really don't think it's that far off from it. It might not be perfect, it could have been better, but I also think this could have been a lot worse too. The only other aspects of the film I haven't covered were its art, soundtrack, and English dub. As for its art, Biberi animated the film, and just like season 2, it looks pretty good. For a full 2-hour film, the animation itself is not up to par with other anime films. I know it's the Quintuplets, but I still thought the movie would look better than just 2 hours of season 2 on the big screen. That being said, just like season 2, its art is heavily carried by its great character as well as color designs. Both are probably some of my favorite designs in any harem anime. As for its soundtrack, I enjoyed it. I don't know how much was reused from the previous seasons, but what was here I liked. Its English dub is just the same as before. Not perfect, but still pretty good. Plus there's no Monica Rial, so that's awesome too. Anyway, I hadn't rewatched the anime or reread the manga in preparation for this video. I'll eventually buy the anime and movie on Blu-ray and rewatch it on my own time just to see how well it is now that it's finally complete. I doubt my opinion of the series will change, but if it does, does, I don't think it'll be by much. I could see season 1 rise by a tiny bit, and I'm sure season 2 will go up from a light 9 to a mid or maybe even strong 9 out of 10. But for now, here are the final rankings for the anime and the manga. Season 1, 7.66. Season 2, 9.26. The manga at 9.3. And finally the movie, which gets a 9.03 out of 10. Well, that was the movie, and that was also now the entire anime and manga that I reviewed. It was overall a great ride. It's nice that the series got a great ending, and I'm glad I watched and read it. It's always bittersweet to see such a great series end, but it's better that it ends while it's still great and to also end on a high note too. I love the series. It's my third favorite Harem series, and I hope the author eventually makes another Harem. If not, then at least another great romance series. But that being said, that's the end of the video. If you liked it, then you can leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell, or even support me on Patreon. Link in the description. Goodbye, every pony. Oh, what the fuck is that? Breaking news, EDP got caught again trying to, steal some sweets from a food store. Jesus Christ, can someone give this man a cupcake already?
You ain't really fuck with me way back then, girl. How about 'cause I'm up right now.